watching the left wing, you are probably at least generally familiar with the concept of universal health care and how in America we have the highest health care costs in the entire world with not the best healthcare outcomes. And that's one problem that I often refer to when talking about why we need universal health care. But there's another problem with the private healthcare system that isn't just the healthcare costs that you're paying. It also has to do with the healthcare costs your employer is paying. Recent studies have found that the average American family who have had workplace insurance, like most of us do, our employers provide us with our insurance, have missed out on $125,000 in earnings over the past 3 decades as a result of rising premiums eating into their total compensation package. It is staggering how much money companies are now having to pay to insure their workforce because wages, as we all know, as much as they do technically rise, it's been pretty slow rise as of late. But healthcare premiums have continued to skyrocket and skyrocket. Back in 1988, about 7.9% of workers' total compensation was healthcare that their company was paying for. In 2019, that had increased to 17.7%. That is money that employers are having to pay that would be going to wages, but isn't because it's just being eaten up by these healthcare premiums. And worst of all, this is by far mostly affecting low income workers. For the bottom 20% of earners, almost 30% of their total compensation package is just the amount of money their employers are paying for their healthcare premiums. We have allowed the health insurance industry to completely eat away at all of our wages. And it's something that really doesn't get talked about very much when we're talking about, healthcare discourse, universal healthcare, and everything like that. And I guess the question here, even though it is so clear and obvious when you look at the data that our wages are being suppressed by our healthcare premiums, why do you think that doesn't get talked about so much? TJ, I'll throw to you.
Yeah, it goes to we were talking about the fantastic job that capitalists have done with propaganda over the years and convincing people that it's completely normal that whether or not you can afford to go to the doctor is entirely dependent on if you work somewhere that offers you health insurance. Like that's a bizarre concept that it shouldn't be related in any way at all. And no matter how much you tell people, like you can show them spreadsheets and cite these nerd ass statistics to them all you want about how this is objectively awful, they will fight you to their blue in the face for their right to be extorted by an unnecessary middleman between them and their healthcare provider. It's weird. I'm amazed every day that we don't have universal healthcare. I'm stunned that we don't. And there's just no good arguments for it. And honestly, unfortunately, the reality is that folks that buy into this, they're just gonna have to age out. That's it. I mean, that's the only way that if you're reading about this in a book, this would be like the peasants collecting pitchfork situation. But the people who were born in the 40s, 50s, and even 60s, they are wedded to this system because man, we just can't let everybody have health care. That's socialism, and that's bad. I mean, they're gonna believe that till their dying day. So until that day comes, I think we're kind of stuck with the system. What do you think, Liz?
I mean, this system is brutal. I'm so happy that you touched on it being tied to employment because when I'm talking to conservatives about things like universal basic income, you're right. They'll fight so hard against their own best interests. But one of the ways that I have seemed to get through to people, at least in my family, is talking about how much of a cost cutter this would be for your average small business as well. Because, like you mentioned earlier, John, it is not just the individuals that are feeling the increasing rising cost of these healthcare premiums, but it's also the employers. So something like universal basic income would not only save the average American money, but it would save these businesses money. it would just save money overall. You know, when you look at the numbers at how much we're currently spending versus how much universal healthcare would cost, it's something like 5 trillion it would end up saving over the course of like 5 years. I'll have to look into that further to confirm those numbers, but it's just it's so interesting how many people are still opposed to it through American propaganda. It's got to be, the biggest reason.
John, before you respond, I want to say something real quick about, can we just like take a second to contemplate the grim reality that what Liz said was 100% true, that you will have a better chance of getting people to agree to universal health care when you tell them, look at it through the eyes of a small business owner, than you would of saying, look at it through your own fucking eyes and the eyes of everyone else you know. Instead, imagine you have your own little kingdom and how wrong that is for you. And that's going to work. That's going to work on a lot of people. And that is devastating. But yeah, I believe you. That's 100% true.
We're all just temporarily embarrassed millionaires.
It's wild,
right?
man. It's wild.
Poor.
I'm glad you guys brought up this point, because I've said on this show before, and I've said this in general and often get laughed at, but I really believe this to be true, that of all of the what I call bucket list big ticket items that progressives have, universal health care, universal basic income, open borders, end of US military imperialism, universal housing, universal education, whatever it might
Trans
be.
all the kids.
And trans all the kids. Yeah, that's
of
the other
course.
one.
Yeah, can't leave out number one, John. Come on, Jesus. We're taking away your membership.
We lost Liz.
Oh, I knocked my phone over. I laughed so hard. Oh my goodness.
Of all of those, I think that universal healthcare is the most likely to actually happen in my lifetime.
Yeah,
and the reasons for that is specifically what Liz is talking about, is that the argument has gotten to the point where it's so obvious, even the least intellectually curious conservative, there is some way you can hook them into it, whether that be the small business angle, whether it be the, these, greedy corporate elite insurance companies are screwing everything up. Like, everyone knows healthcare is fucked up. Everyone who has ever had to get healthcare in this country, which is everyone, has dealt with shittiness in the system. It just, you go through it and you're like, this is broken. It doesn't work. And it could be, it could be the small business angle. It could be that is what gets them to be like, yeah, no, that is an unfair burden on small businesses. It makes them unable to compete with the large mega corporations that we also don't like. It could be that they don't personally just like the process of getting insurance. A lot of times the tied to employment is something that conservatives will agree with me on is just dumb, because they will agree that, yeah, I've lost my job and lost healthcare before, and that fucking sucked, because that is an experience that unfortunately most people have had. And it's really just undeniable. It's not even voting against their best interests. It's just like, we've just experienced personally how shitty this is. You've never experienced not having universal basic income because you never had it, but you've experienced losing your health insurance because you lost your job, and that sucks. So this is one of those things that I think really could become a real thing. We just have to kind of get over the lobbying hump. But I do think that can be accomplished. You guys agree with me on that? I actually don't know if I've ever said that to you, TJ.
Oh, I agree 100%. Like, I would say the exact same thing. Like, I expect us to have universal, healthcare before I die. I would be surprised. I listen. If when the lights are about to go off for TJ, I was like, God damn it! I thought we'd at least get that one. That's what I would think, because
I can't believe I'm leaving my family.
I can't believe
debt.
it. Yeah, it's like God, send me back. My work is not done. Like, we have more way to get this, but it's just that, because you're right. It's just so incredibly obvious to anyone who and John, you mentioned a good point that, outside of like the money aspect of how, it's more expensive for everyone involved. You got to pay for like insurance company marketing and everything. Like, there's a person who's I can't remember the title, but every insurance company has a person whose whole job is to go back over insurance claims from the past year and see which ones they can revoke. Oh, what's up, Liz?
Real quick, and those people are usually not medical professionals. Those people usually have absolutely no business approving or denying claims. Sorry.
Yeah. They have I'm gonna think of it like 10 minutes from now what the actual title is, but yeah, like they exist solely to screw you over, and you're like, we gotta have this because what it comes down to, unfortunately, for a lot of people, I saw like a documentary on this specific thing, is that you can probably like coax someone into the glaringly obvious reality that life would be better for them if they were paying, instead of paying 10% of your income getting taken away to pay for your health insurance, if you paid 3% of your income to a giant pool where everyone got health insurance, you could probably coax people in that direction. But the hang up for them is like, yeah, but certain folks are going to get the health care too, and I ain't too kind. I ain't get too keen about that. Like, we're going to have a bunch of darkies getting it, and like these floozies that are going out and getting knocked up or getting abortions. Like, that's going to be the hang up for a lot of people. And I that once again, which goes back to like the aging out thing. I think that more and more of these people, are shuffle off this mortal coil, we're gonna have a better shot. But I agree with you, John. I think it's coming. How about you, Liz? Well, you'll both live way longer than I will, so I guess that's not a fair. It's
Oh,
not,
I wasn't
Knock
sure
on
about
wood here,
that.
TJ.
Say
I
what?
hold I wanted to say to that real quick, before Liz jumps in, that I know that like, that's a common thing. Like, well, they just don't want the darkies getting it or whatever it is. But like, I don't get that with this one. Like, I get it with things like universal basic income, like housing and stuff. But like, that's how insurance already works. Like that, you already get it. Like you get the same insurance that I do. We just both have to pay for it. Like it's not like housing where it's like, oh no, I can get my own house and you can get your own house over there and I don't have to see you. Insurance, we're participating in the same pool anyway. Like and like, do they just not understand how insurance works? Like I
No,
barely
it's
understand it, but like,
it's
come on.
just that some people are deserving of good things and certain people are not. That's all it comes down to. Like, I was having a conversation with my best friend from college, and my brother is a PA in Orlando, and his name's Mark. And Mark was telling me about how absurd it is, that how needlessly elaborate the insurance system is to get people their health care, and how it causes hospitals to charge more, and like it makes service less efficient. And I was telling him, what my brother said, and and that so I can't remember how much it was, but he has two kids, and he was telling me that the health insurance for him, his wife, and his two kids. I remember it was well over $1,000 a month, like well over that. And I was like, holy shit. And then so I was telling my best friend, I was like, yeah, so like he knows this, and like, why should he have to pay, $1,200 a month? Like it's probably higher than that just to have health insurance for his kids and everything. And my buddy said, well, look, your brother is like, a medical professional and stuff. Like yeah, of course he deserves health insurance. But like some homeless guy, like he should get that. Like he said that like no shame at all. So yeah, like that's what they think. Like some people are deserving of good things, other folks aren't. And like you said, like it's surface level thinking. It doesn't go any deeper than that for them.
And I mean, it ties back to how heavily propagandized the American public is. I mean, I say this all the time, but when I get to hell, the first person I'm fighting is Ronald Reagan. Because this idea of
Get in
like the
line,
welfare.
sister. Get in line.
Yeah, he's getting there first.
I'm getting there way quicker.
um, but this idea that there are just lazy people out here who are taking and stealing all the money from you. Those are billionaires. Those are
Yes.
the fucking lobbyists. Those are the people, the insurance companies who are denying all of your claims. And we talked about this a little bit on the break, but as we get further into late stage capitalism, there are places that exist like Kaiser Permanente that are both the medical provider and the insurance company. So they have a huge vested interest in, you know, making sure that they have a good bottom line and denying all of your claims. And it's just it's it's terrible, but it's how much money can we get out of you? And ultimately, unless you address this for-profit healthcare system, you know, I don't think it's going to change. But one thing that I wanted to address real quick that you said earlier is that, you can agree to get people to say, I'll stop paying 10% of my income, I'll pay 3% or whatever it would be. But we just read this in this article that some people are paying up to 29% of their income towards health insurance
Wild,
because
wild.
it's the same plan regardless of how much you make. There's not a sliding scale fee or a sliding scale for how much your income is. It's just get fucked if you're poor. And
Yeah.
so many people buy into this idea that poor people should get fucked because poor people are less deserving or whatever the case may be. When, you know, everyone wants to blame the individual and no one wants to blame the systems set up to for individual failings. And
You know, it's almost like they see that as a feature and not a bug. Like I think that a lot of times, like when we see systems, you know, we always talk it's expensive to be poor. And I think even conservatives, a lot of them will generally agree with that statement. Like you just said, like, yeah, if 30% of your income is going to the same health insurance plan, which you need to have because it's health insurance, then yeah, it's going to be harder to save money, build wealth, and like become a not poor person. But they see that as a feature, not a bug. Like I see that as a bug. Like obviously, I want everyone to be rich as humanly possible and have all of the great things this world has to offer them. And in a world where everyone is without need, that is a perfect world. But I think they see it differently. I think they
Yeah.
fundamentally see it as this is some sort of what's the right word? Like a colander. Like it's weeding out the people who don't deserve it. And if you
Yeah.
can't get past the hardship, then you didn't deserve the good life.
Yeah.
And I think that's genuinely how they see it. It's the only way that logically makes sense to me. Now, obviously, you have to ignore the fact that many people are born past to the Great Barrier, but like if we can just ignore that like they do, I think that is genuinely the philosophy. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not one of them, but that's what I've come to understand.
No, it's you know, I think that there's a lot of truth to that. Is that they may not have thought, well, actually, there's a guarantee they haven't thought about it, you know, that deeply, but essentially they have this like Calvinistic mindset that, you know, there are some individuals who are favored by God. And, you know, if you happen to be one of those individuals, then God will make your life pleasant as, you know, because you are one of the lucky chosen few. And if you're the ones who, you know, God frowns upon, well, you know, hey, tough shit. That's how it is. And even if you look at it from someone who doesn't think of it in a Calvinistic standpoint, other people have this like Protestant work ethic type of thing that listen, if you just, you know, put your nose to the grindstone, you work hard enough, the good things in life will come to you. Like the hardest working people I know are all doing great. So yeah,
Mm.
that's just their philosophy and how everything will work. But John, you mentioned something about how they don't seem to understand how insurance functions. This is so true. Now, this happened a long time ago, but do you guys remember Congressman Paul Ryan? He was
Yeah,
the Speaker of the House of Republicans, and
the VP for
yeah,
do
for
you guys remember when he used to
Mormon
be
guy.
the craziest Republican or
Yeah,
one
I
of
know.
the
Yeah,
craziest
remember when he had
Republicans?
the photo shoot with he was like working
the
out and
lifting
like we
weights
thought
and shit.
like
Yeah, that was
everyone was
that.
clowning on that and like it's just taking me back.
You know,
I totally forgot about that.
the funny thing was, it was like it wasn't that he was lifting weights; is that he looked like such a fucking dork. He was
Yeah.
wearing like a shirt 4 sizes
Right?
too long. Oh, here we go. He had the goofy hat. It was so weird. It was like, buddy, honestly, he'd have been better off being shirtless, like and no hat. Like that'd have been like, all
The
right, you
hat.
know,
I forgot the hat.
a
Yeah.
hat. Yeah, it's like it's not even thirst trap material. Like it's like you said, you just look like a moron. Yeah. So, but Paul Ryan had this great
40-pound weight.
say what?
It's a 40-pound weight. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, you could have had a prop and made it like an 80-pound weight or something, you know, like we would never have known. But Paul Ryan had this great moment when they were talking about Obamacare or something about healthcare, and he was like on the House floor explaining why universal healthcare wouldn't work. And he had this giant ass chart behind him, and it was like a Venn diagram, and it said that, you know, we have 100% of these people are paying into health insurance. 80% of these people aren't taking advantage of the health insurance at all. It's only going to the 20% of people who are sick. And that's a messed up system. And it was like, bro, that is insurance. Like that is you just described how every insurance company works in human history, and you're saying that's why universal healthcare could work. It was a great moment. But yeah, that's true. They don't understand the concept of insurance because, as far as they're concerned, it should be a free market thing. That if something goes wrong, you go to the doctor, you pay for it out of your own pocket. If you can't afford it, well, guess you die. That's their life philosophy, and it's pretty bizarre.
All right, guys, if you made it this far, that means you've made it to the end of the video, and we could not thank you enough. You don't even understand how much that helps the algorithm. And I'm sure one of the reasons that you made it this far is because you loved hearing from our amazing guest, Liz. And I want to throw it to Liz here so she can tell you where you can hear from her when she's not here on the Left Wing.
Thank you guys again so much for having me on. In all of my socials, I have my link tree, but you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok under All About Liz. That's ALLBOUTLIZ. All About Liz.
Thank you, Liz. Folks, if you liked what you saw, and of course you did, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with your family, friends, loved ones, enemies. I don't care. Just share it with everybody. It's going to help us out a lot, and you'll see it more in the algorithm. Like, just do it, folks. It's quite literally the least you could do.